Oh. सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं कर्वावहै तस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुर्परम्पराम्। ॐ गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। ॐ सरस्वती नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणि विद्यारम्भं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा। कार्पण्यदोषोपहतः स्वभावः पृच्छामि त्वां धर्मसम्मूढचेताः। यश्रेयस्यानिश्चितं ब्रूहि तन्मे शिष्यस्तेऽहं शाधि मां त्वां प्रपन्नम्। ॐ वाङ्मे मनसि प्रतिष्ठिता मनो मे वाचि प्रतिष्ठितम् आविर्म एधि वेदस्य म आणिस्तः श्रुतं मे मा प्रहासिः अनेन अधीतेन अहोरात्रान् सन्ददामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्मामवतु तद्वक्तारम् अवतु अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारम् अवतु वक्तारम्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ कर्णेषु शृणुयाम देवा
भद्रं पश्येम अक्षभीरजत्राः
स्थिरैरङ्गे स्तुष्टुवाग्वं स्वस्तिनुर्भिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः। स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृधश्रवाः स्वस्ति न पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमि स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ अहं विश्वस्य रेरिव कीर्तिपृष्ठं गिरेरिव ऊर्ध्वो पवित्रो वाजिनीव स्वमृतमस्मि भगवं सवर्चसं सुमेधा अमृतोक्षितः इति त्रिशङ्कुर्वेदानुवचनम्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Nara Naren everyone, happy Sunday, good to see everyone.
We'll do the chanting.
Yes, I'll just get the speaker.
So shlok 1 to shlok 9. Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha. Arjuna Uvacha Jayasi Chet Karmanasте Ma Buddhir Sanatana Tat Kim Karma Bhure Mam Niyojayasi Keshava Yami Shrenev Vakyena Buddhim Mudhyate Tadekam Vad Nishchitya Yena Shreyo Hamaknuyam Vanuvacha Lokesmin Vedhanishta Pura Prokta Mayanaka Jnana Yogena Sankhanam Karma Yogena Yogina Na Karmaran Haramka Karmya Purukoshate Na Cha Sanatana Deva सिद्धिं समधिगच्छति न हि कश्चित् क्षणमपि जातु तिष्ठत्य कर्मकृत् आहुते एव कर्म सर्वा प्रकृतिः कर्मेन्द्रियाणि संयम्य आस्ते मनसा स्मरन् इन्द्रियार्थानुविमूढात्मा मिथ्याचार स उच्यते यस्त्विन्द्रियाणि मनसा नियम्यारभते अर्जुन कर्मेन्द्रिय कर्मयोगम् असक्तः स विशिष्यते नियतं कुरु कर्म त्वं कर्तायैव कर्मणः शरीरयात्रा पिचते न प्रसिद्ध्येत कर्मणः यज्ञार्थात् कर्मणो अन्यत्र लोकोऽयं कर्मबन्धनः तदर्थं कर्म कौन्तेय मुक्तसङ्गसमाचर. We'll just go through shlokas. Next, so this we learned book 10. So Saha Yagya. प्रजा सृष्ट्वा पुरोवाच प्रजापतिः अनेन प्रसविष्वध्वं येषो अस्त्विष्टकामधुक्. So Saha Yagya is along with Yagya. Praja, humanity. Srishtva, created. Puro, Purachan, ancient. Uvach, said. Prajapati, Brahma, the creator. Anena, through this. Prasa Vishwadhvam, may you prosper. Esh, through this yagya. Ishvo, Astvishta Kamadhuk, the fulfiller of wishes. Yeah. So we learned shloka in this week. Thank you to everyone who has been sending in their shlokas. I saw a few new names in the last couple of weeks, so thank you so much. That was really, really nice to see. Okay.
So last week we stopped at 3.28, and I actually don't remember, but I think some of you missed that class. I didn't have a chance to look at the recording. But
Hey, Abhinav.
Ajit.
Sorry, can we mute OnePlus device? There is a lot of background, not able to hear you properly. Thank you.
Okay, I'll try and connect the speaker as well. It's not connecting. Oh, it's connected. Thank you.
Yeah, it's better now. Somebody was some background noise was there. Now it is off. Thank you.
Okay, I'll just connect the default audio. It's not connecting.
Bluetooth's not working properly.
To connect Jabra
Okay,
Speak
now.
710, go to the Bluetooth menu on your mobile device and select it from the list.
Sorry, guys, just 1 second. Yeah, this audio is more important.
Is it working? Yeah.
Now can you hear me clearly? Okay, great. So I don't remember who all were in class last time, but we covered some very important aspect, and we went through a chart which is in your book. So right before chapter 1, there is a chart, and that's called the Shrishti Chakra chart. And that chart explains very clearly how we, even though we're individualized soul, and we have I was wondering where my phone is since morning, and he comes in and says we went downstairs and stole my phone. Isko Gita class mein lana bahut zaruri hai, very quickly. So in the in the Shrishti Chakra, it very clearly explains how we as an individualized soul, and even though we are a part of that Bhagwanji, that pure bliss, how we get deluded. So it breaks down both the subtle and the gross elements, starting from guna, start, starting from okay. So in the chart, we start from the gunas, the subtle element, all the way to the gross element, which is the earth, right? Which is the earth, fire, water, etc. And it beautifully explains how our senses are are perfectly mirrored to what the sansar creates. That we get attached at that sensory level. And because we get attached, our senses get attached to the earth and everything in the sansar, our ego, our intellect, our mind all gets completely deluded that that is what is real, and we forget our true nature, which is the individualized soul. And something we'd covered earlier as well is in the chart, there is that antakaran, right? There is that subtle body that is referred to, which is made up by the intellect, the ego, and the mind. And that is unique for every individual. That is unique for every individual based on combinations of your past life and the three gunas, which is Sat, Raj, and Tam, right? Which is why there is an innate nature in each of us that comes from our previous lives, previous actions, and previous karmas. So, two people living in the same household as twins will have very different upbringing experience despite the situation being the same, right? That's called antakaran. And everything that we have to focus on is not at the gross level, which is sansar or senses per se. Our focus has to purely be on the antakara, the subtle body. As our subtle body becomes stronger and stronger, our intellect is the only tool through which we can connect to the soul. So in the hierarchy of the chart, it's very clearly explained. You have the intellect, you have the ego, and you have the mind. Each one has its own purpose. Ego being the one that allows us to distinguish between people. If we didn't have that barcode or distinguishing ability, we would all become we would not be able to do any work because we wouldn't be able to take responsibility, because we wouldn't be able to take accountability. So it all has a role and purpose. But instead of using ego as a way to do duty and responsibility and action, we use it to hoard achievement. That I am this because of me and my own actions. And that's the delusion that comes in, right? So the entire Gita and the entire journey is about cleaning our own antakaran. It's about making our subtle body stronger so that the ego realizes what its true purpose is, the intellect realizes what its true purpose is, and you focus your actions in a way where you're connecting to the higher self, not in a way where you're getting seeped deeper into the world and worldly activities. Because you're doing whether you go up or you go down, the reason for doing it is exactly the same. Because the purpose of every single human being on the planet is exactly the same. It's happiness. So either you can achieve happiness like the way we've been doing so far, is chasing the world, or you can achieve happiness by going to your true nature, which is absolute bliss. Then what happens in the sansar is immaterial because you understand it's a product of the gunas. It's this illusion of gunas that creates everything, the subtle, the gross, the earth, everything else that is there in it. Yeah. So I just wanted to quickly summarize that because we'll be touching upon the antakaran quite a bit subsequently.
Sorry, I just had one clarification here. So you mentioned that when you kind of get connected to your inner self, that can help you reach that blissful state of mind or the happiness. And then what happens around you doesn't affect you as such, like, because then you're always at that happy state of mind. So does that mean that, like, whatever action, whatever act you should do that gives you happiness and you have experience, and you should focus all your energy towards those specific activities, whereas doing the worldly duty, because then you are at that state of mind where you are happy with your actions and you're connected to your real you. And then the worldly things, like the responsibilities and all, though you're doing it to the best, it does not affect you emotionally. Is that what?
So, so we are on the journey of karma yogis. Karma is work, it's duty. Yog means connection. Our job is to connect to Bhagwanji through our work, not by just doing not by just focusing on a spiritual path. Because we all come with past life bondage, with karma, with our own antakaran, which is not clear. We are doing the karma yogi path where we have duty. We all have grahast, we all have families, we all have work. We cannot escape from it. We all need to earn money to live in this world. We're part of it. What we're going to be retraining ourselves is how to do that duty. How do we do our duty so that we stay connected? How do we do our karma while staying yoga with Bhagwanji? That will achieve true bliss. So we'll talk a lot about doing work without expectations, doing work with lok sangra, so benefit of others, work for the system, not for yourself. Do your duty. You have the right to do your duty, but you don't have the right to its results. That is an offering of the sansar, of the universe to you, of Bhagwanji to you. I may have worked really hard to win a particular match, right? Or suppose I'm a sprinter and I've trained really hard and I'm world number one. But on that morning, something happens and I wake up with a stomach bug. That doesn't mean everything I've done is gone for waste. That doesn't mean that, now I'm going to get sad and depressed. It just means, this was just my journey where I shouldn't be attached to that result. There'll always be another race for me to run in. Right?
So to answer your question, from what I'm hearing, you will do certain activities which will give you that sense of peace, the sense of connectedness, and there is a certain lightness, right? Rag comes in. I'm finding this very peaceful, so I want to do more and more of this. And then there is a dvesh towards things that do not give me that sense of peace today. So again, now you have to see that even when you're trying to do something satoguni activity, like maybe it's attending this Gita class gives me a lot of energy. So now I'm getting attached to it, right? There is a rag that has seeped in. I want to do my naam jap, or I like my 15 minutes of meditation every day. And if something comes in that way, फिर अंदर से द्वेष आता है. I don't like somebody coming in the way of me getting my bliss, those 15 minutes of bliss, right? Now, all of these, there's nothing wrong with it. It's perfectly all right, right? These are the fact that you have found at least something which gives you that sense of bliss or that sense of connectedness is great, okay? And you must try and get that into your day every single day, because you have found a way to energize yourself so that you can give more of yourself to other activities, okay? But remember, this is only a point in the journey. This is not the end of the journey. And the more the number of activities which will start giving you an opportunity to get connected to Lord while doing that activity will tell you how far you are along that journey. So we all start by finding those one or two things which will connect us. For some, it may be meditation. For others, it may be listening to music or dancing or yoga or long walks, whatever it may be. For some people, it is just doing their work, right? So we all have those small snippets of things in our lives. Now we have to be aware that even there a rag and dvesh comes in, which is exactly what we're supposed to go away from. So if meditation gives us that opportunity, or going to temple, that morning temple routine that I may have, if that gives me that sense of peace and happiness, if one day that doesn't happen, maybe it has not happened to make you realize that you're getting attached to that activity and you have to stay away from that also.
Yeah.
Right. And and the point is, yeah, and you will not do your other duties. All of these are your duties. It is a duty to yourself also to find that space to get connected to Lord. But then it is your duty to expand that circle where you find yourself connected to Lord.
So all these things, right? Nam Jap, the satsang, the Sunday class,
These are
all of these
crutches.
are sadhanas, right? Because we need it. It's like a pencil that needs to be sharpened to write clearly. But you can't just keep sharpening the pencil.
You have to write with it.
Because the pencil's duty is to write, is to create something of value. So you can't just keep sharpening the pencil, because that's the waste of your life. You have to sharpen the pencil to be able to write, and that's what we're doing. All of this is a way for us to sharpen ourselves. So that when we do our duty, we do it in the prescribed manner that allows us to reach the higher self.
These are all crutches. These are all crutches for us. Now, your crutch can be whatever you want. For some, it may be that I want to keep a small idol of God on my work desk, which keeps me connected. For others, it may be something else. It may just be a word. It may just be a thought. Or it may be puja. Whatever these things are all crutches. Remember, the day you reach that stage, these crutches will drop away. You won't need them any longer. It's like you need to study, you need books till the time you are in school, or like you need the crutches till the time you learn to walk. The day you learn to walk, you don't need things to like hold on to, right? You just walk. So everything that we do not attach any religiosity to any of this stuff. It is very scientific. There is no religious purpose. There's no like, don't ever get attached to anything. Not even Nam Jap, not even this Gita class, not even your Swadhyaya. But you must do it from the perspective of that very scientific attitude. Vyavasayatmika buddhi. You're doing this to build your mental muscle, to stay connected to Lord, irrespective of what you're doing in your life. You're cooking, you're playing, you are sleeping, you're working, whatever you may be doing. That is the purpose. That is the purpose for all these activities, and not to take you away. If they are taking you away by developing rag towards this and dvesh towards your real duty in life, then you have lost the purpose of why you're doing this in the first place.
Yeah.
We'll start with Shlok 29.
Smita, would you like to read the connection first?
Yeah, hi, sure. Shlok 27 describes the psychology of a deluded person who is guided by selfish motives. And Shlok 28 describes the viewpoint of a knower of inner reality, a Sankhya yogi. But the Lord now raises a finger of caution. He says that the deluded ignoramuses should not be taught any precept whereby they might renounce action itself. Clarifying this, he says, yeah.
This kind of directly asks your question, right? Anupama, he's basically saying that it's very easy for you to get deluded at this point, not to act, but that is not the purpose. The purpose is to heighten and build our awareness so that we operate from a higher purpose and not get seeped into samsara. Yeah.
Prakrite guna sammudha.
Prakrite guna sammudha.
Sajjante guna karmasu.
Sajjante guna karmasu.
Tana kritsna vido manda.
Tana kritsa vinomanda.
Tana kritsna vido manda.
Tana kritsna vido manda.
Kritsna vinna vichalaye.
Kritsavinna vichalayet.
Nice. Prakrite, prakriti ke, of the nature. Gun samudha, deluded under the power of gunas. Sajjante, आसक्त रहते हैं, are attached to. Gun karmasu, गुणों में और कर्मों में, in the gunas and in the actions. Tan, un, those. Kritsna vido, Kritsna vido is पूर्णतया ना समझने वाला, those who do not fully understand. Manda, mand buddhi agyani, ignorant people, ignoramus. Kritsnavin, one who knows completely. Vichalaye, vichlit na kare, shouldn't confuse. Let's read.
Yeah. Those who are under the delusory influence of gunas become attached to their functions. The knower of inner reality should take care that such ignoramuses are not led into any neglect or underestimation of the importance of actions. Guidance to sages to guard against creating perplexity for deluded ignoramuses.
Yeah.
There are three. Yeah.
So in this shloka, he's reinforcing a very important point, which is when you read the Gita, you're reading it for yourself and for your benefit. Do not try and take little snippets of it to look at other people and judge other people or give them advice. Gita cannot be given in snippets. You can't just give 3-4 shlokas from here and there and think you've got the crux of Gita. It has to be read from shloka 1 to chapter 18, shloka 78.
700.
Yeah. So in this shloka, he's essentially telling you that the previous chart that we've studied to be a sage is to bring our level of awareness for our own benefit, for cleaning our own antakaran, so that we have become aware how easy it is to get attached to the world. It is not, do not try and prescribe this to others because they may use it as an excuse not to do their duty.
Yeah. As we always say, right? We are sadhak, not pracharak. So we are not preachers. We are here to learn ourselves. We are on the learning path ourselves. And this connects back. This is basically a revision of the last class, essentially, in one shloka, where in shloka 27, we had learned that a person who is deluded, what does he think? He thinks that every activity that he is doing it, right? I am the doer. I chose to do it. They don't know how strongly their actions are being fully being done by the gunas, that they are really not, it is an illusion that I have free will in what I'm doing, right? Those actions are getting done under the power of gunas, but they don't know it. I am the doer. Whereas the people who understand the reality know that they are not doing anything. And then in Shlok 26, they had said that enlightened persons should not be talking about Gita to others, should not be telling them stuff like, oh, this world is transient, there should be no attachment, there is no point in doing all of these things, because there is a concept of destiny. When you say stuff like this and they get taken out of context, such people who have been doing actions, but they are doing, the Rajoguni people, they are doing action for achieving certain results in life. It's very easy for them to get disillusioned. And then they will say, okay, what's the point of me doing any action at all in the first place? And they will completely stop doing action. Yeah. So you have given them a very bad path to follow, and you have accrued very bad karma for yourself also, because you've taken them away from, at least they were doing parishram, at least they were doing action, they were being in action. You've taken them completely away from action now.
Yeah. So in this shloka, they'll describe 3 types of people. These 3 types of people represent Sat, Raj, and Tam. So let's read that and then we'll explain it a bit more.
There are 3 types of people in the world. The first type comprise people who are sages, seers, and yoga aspirants with complete knowledge of inner reality.
So this
The
type,
second,
are the Sataguni, the Sataguni people, people who are realized saints, seers, who have complete awareness of their inner reality and turmoil, and complete
Knowledge of the reality.
knowledge and control in a way of where they operate from, why they operate out of purpose with the right bhav for everything.
the second type consists of persons who are completely involved in gunas and their functional interactions with a view to assiduously securing the objects of their desires, thinking this to be all and end all of life.
So this is the second type, which are Rajoguni people, dynamic people, people who are constantly in action, constantly hankering behind goals and achievements, and acquiring things for their own benefit or other people's benefit, but they're constantly in action. And for what it's worth, all of us are Rajoguni people. That's the
For most part.
For most part, that's our dominant guna. And that's the dominant guna with which we've been brought up, with the way we see the world, with the way we see our own lives, right? How we plan our lives. It's all about next job, promotion, ye kharidna hai, I want this, I want that, I want. That is the Rajoguni bhav. Please.
The third type comprises of people who either neglect their duties on account of laziness or carelessness or lead a life of crime and sin.
So this is the Tamoguni people, right? Now, of course, none of us would know any one person who is only Tamoguni. But if you read that line, I'm sure there are enough number of experiences in our own lives where we've done it, right? Being lazy about not doing their duty, procrastinating, talofying, like procrastinating till it's not required, until somebody else does it. And you're like, "Arey, boss, I scored a victory," right? Sorry. But what's interesting is we're not any one type of person. We are a thread with all three intertwined in different proportions. So some of us will be a little more Rajoguni, some of us will be a little more Tamoguni, some of us would be a little more Satoguni. And again, this is not, after the class, don't go and judge your husband and wife, hey, you are more this and you're that. That's not the purpose. The purpose is to inquire for yourself. Where is it that you spend most of your thoughts? Is it in acquiring? Is it in wanting? Is it in desires? Then just be aware, I just have a very strong Rajoguni force in me, right? And that's not going to change overnight. But awareness is the first step for change, of to bring awareness that, hey, I need to get myself a bit detached from it, right? And similarly with Tamagun, similarly with Satagun. It's just about using this to build our own awareness, ki, where are we in our sadhana?
Another thing is Tamo. So what is the difference in the actions? In between Tamogun and Rajogun, it seems like there's a big difference, right? Tamoguni, the activities only are bad activities. They are those that are not prescribed under the scriptures at all. So it's very easy to identify. So Tamoguni activities would be when you are being careless or you're being lazy, or even worse, you're actually hurting somebody in some fashion through your words, through your actions, you're acquiring other people's things, etc. Right? So Tamoguni is very obvious when we see Tamoguni activity, we recognize it. And these are things that we shouldn't do at all. Then when we come to Rajoguni activity, the activities, the actions when you are in Satogun or Rajogun can be very similar, pretty much in all cases, because people who are doing Rajoguni activity with a view to acquire their material desires, they will typically be doing all the right things. You know, the guy who stands first in the class, he has extreme discipline, doing everything right, listening to his teachers, doing what is prescribed to be his duty in the most perfect manner, doing all the right things, right? So the Rajoguni people will live their life in accordance with scriptural activities for most part. They will do the right things. The difference between Satoguni and Rajoguni people will be at the bhav level. Rajoguni people are doing the same action with a sakam bhav. They have an attachment, they have an end goal in mind that they want to achieve, and that end goal is seeped in the material world. Satoguni people will do the same activity, but with a nishkam bhav, with a yagya bhav, with an attitude that where they have cut off their link to the end result. Whatever may happen, this is something that I'm supposed to do, and I will do it with the right bhav in mind. I'm doing this for Lord's happiness. I am doing this for my ultimate welfare, which is to cleanse my antahkara. Right? That is the difference between Satoguni people and Rajoguni people. Action level, you will find them almost same. It's the bhav level that changes. And when that bhav changes, the experience you create in your life will completely change. So Rajoguni people will experience, because they are so attached to that end result, because that's the real reason why they're doing something, right? That creates a lot of anxiety. It creates a lot of negative feeling in terms of anxiety, anger. When you don't get your end result, there is anger. Or even though when the way I've described it right now, it feels as if like, oh, Satogun and Rajogun are very close to each other. Tamogun is very, very far, right? But in reality, at a bhav level, Tamogun and Rajogun are very close and very, very far from Satogun, which means that when you are in Rajogun, the danger of you falling into Tamogun is very high. You start doing something, you don't get the end result, that moment you will get angry. Or you get your end result and then you start hankering for more, greed, right? And once you get greedy, at some point of time, the unlimited desires and wants will reach a roadblock where you will not achieve what you want. That moment comes anger, frustration, and then we know the slippery slope to hell that we had read in chapter 2. Anger, that will completely brush your memory, so it will spoil your memory. You will not remember what is right, what is wrong, and then you will start doing tamoguni activities, either by saying, oh, it's not worth it, I'm not going to do anything at all, I will just sit by my side, I will not do any activity. Or you will start to think about how to hurt others in some fashion to be able to get your gain. And you will justify it to yourself, because somebody else did this to me, so I have to give it back to him. I have to do this. This is the way of the world. I got into this problem because I was being too naive about things, right? This is the way of the world, and I have to teli ungli se hi ghee nikalta hai. We will justify the whole world to ourselves for doing our tamoguni activities after that.
So just to give an example, right, of how one activity on the surface level will look the same from a Sataguni and a Rajoguni perspective. So we all get invited to little kids' birthday parties, right? As a Rajoguni person, which is what I had done for the longest time, you go to the birthday party, अरे chips खाया, छोले पूरी खा लिए, ये खा लिया, happy birthday, अरे ha ha hi ho gaya. You wish the birthday, happy birthday to the boy, and the boy goes in or the girl goes in. They are playing with their kids. You're sitting with the uncle, auntie. Great party. You go back home. That's the Rajoguni way of celebrating a birthday. When the same person who is in Satogun would take a moment or two to bless the child, to say a prayer, to say a wish that I really wish that you always stay this happy, this curious. You find and you take a moment to experience that child, what their passion is, acknowledge it, and then bless that child that I really wish you continue on this path of curiosity or learning or whatever that kid, sports or whatever, music or whatever their passion is, right? That's a Satoguni person. The action level is exactly the same, but that little intent that is changed to actually give a little bit of a prayer for that kid changes the entire experience of your party for yourself and the kid. Which is why in India, this concept of touching feet and blessing, that can be a Rajoguni thing, where I remember in Indore, like when I used to go to Indore visit, I would crack a joke that I may as well not stand up because I'm constantly just touching feet, right? And it became such a Rajoguni activity. But as I grew older, I realized everything in my life is actually because of those blessings. And I don't know who said what in which intent that actually would have changed my life. And that's our role today, right? How do we bring the Satoguni into these Rajoguni activities that we take for granted? Please continue with it. We can't hear you, Smita. Is it just?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Persons of the third type can perhaps be guided to leave the path of crime and sin and do their duties. But those of the second type are ever busy working to gain the objects of their desires as they are led by the temptations of the world. Such people are likely to be perplexed by moral teachings of sages into believing that all action should be abjured. The emphasis of such teaching should be on the desirability of doing duties selflessly and not for securing the objects of desires. By doing so, they would be able to secure the supreme gain of human life, and such a teaching is bound to benefit them. But what if they are told that the world is ephemeral and all action is futile? This may result in renunciation of action itself instead of the renunciation of covetousness in action. Covetousness in action.
So I think Tuvina already covered this.
I think there are two important things here. The second part, what is obviously written here, I think we've covered that, and we had covered this in great detail in last class also. So we understand that we should not be, lecturing other people on this thing, right? Because it has its own hazards. But more importantly, I think I would want to emphasize this distinction, and this is something that we have all experienced of when we are in Rajoguni Bhav and we are doing all the right actions, right? There's a lot of us, we feel like we are being good people. And a lot of people will say, I don't need Gita because I'm a good person, right? We are all good people, right? Tamoguni activity is very easy to recognize, and most of us, in most cases, will say, I don't want to do that. Or having done it, at some point of time, you don't feel great about it, and you're like, this is something that I do not want to do. An example could be, yes, you've experienced like massive binge drinking, and then you've understood what's hota kya at the end of it all. And you're like, this is definitely Tamoguni, so I'm not going to binge drink again, right? So easy to go away from Tamoguni activities, away from that, being able to recognize the negatives of that is much easier. But when you are in that doing good mode of Rajoguni activities, being like, when you're saying, I am a good person, that is a very, very dangerous zone. Very dangerous zone. Because when you are doing good, when you are doing good things, then the problem is there is massive amount of ego there. You are doing good things as a Rajoguni person with an end goal in mind. And it could be very subtle. That end goal could just be, I am wishing somebody and I want that person to acknowledge it. Or I'm doing charity, I just want an acknowledgement for that charity. It could be very subtle, right? It doesn't have to be at a physical, gross level of acquiring some thing. It could just be subtle as, he didn't acknowledge me, he didn't say thank you. We all talk about, I have been taken for granted all my life, right? These are all bound to expectations. These are all Rajoguni flavors of us coming out. And when you're doing good, then you are choosing who to be good to and who not to be good to. When you're doing charity, how many of us have heard this, and how many of us have experienced it ourselves, that there was this beggar who came, and I gave money to this beggar because ABC, and I did not give that particular beggar something because they don't deserve it. They don't deserve my charity, right? When you are doing charity, the fact that you are thinking that you have the determination, you have the ability to determine who to give charity to and who not to give charity to, is a very big issue. Huh? You are being a good person by being charitable, and yet you have an ego where you think you will determine who that money goes to. Very, very big problem. Huh? So you can be good to one person in one opportunity, and another person you will not be good to. Another issue there, right? So that's a very dangerous place to be. You can be friendly to one person, you can be very nasty to another person in another situation, and then have all reasons around why you're being so and so. So you need to move, we all need to move from doing good to being good. And that's when we move from Rajoguni to Satoguni as well. That change will happen. So when you are being good, then it doesn't matter what's happening around you or who is interacting around you. You will be the same person in every situation. You will not change. In a Rajoguni Bhav, when you are doing good, then you are not the same person. You will be good in one situation and you will be Tamoguni in another situation. Being good, then if you are being friendly, you will be friendly to anyone and everyone, irrespective of what they bring to your life. So even the Shatru that you may have, even your detractors, you will be exactly the same to them as you are being to your benefactors. Your being does not change with them. And that is the space to be in. Another issue is that when you are doing good, then that, it's such a daldal, right? Once you get into that space, it is very difficult to recognize what is wrong. And so moving from Tamogun to Satogun is much easier than moving from Rajogun to Satogun. That's why that space is extremely dangerous for us to recognize.
All right, Anita, would you like to read the connection?
Did you say me? My name? Okay. Okay. Hence the Lord lays
Oh,
down.
no, I said Anita, sorry.
Oh, okay.
Hence, the Lord says down the perfect discipline of human welfare as the essence of his teaching.
Mai sarvani karmani.
Mai sarvani karmani.
Sanyasya adhyatma chetasa.
Sanyasya yadartha chetasa. Sanyasya
Adhyatma chetasa.
Yadhyatma chetasa.
Nirashi nirmamo bhutva.
Nirashi nirmamo bhutva.
Yudhyasva vigat jwaraha.
Yudhyasya vigarva.
Yeah, vigat jwaraha. Mai, mujhme, in me. Sarvani, complete, all. Karmani, all karma, all actions. Sanyasya, arpan karke, offering. Adhyatma chetasa, engaged with God in everything that you do. So you are always at that higher consciousness. Nirashi, without asha. Nir asha, without asha, without expectation. Nirmamo, without mamta, without moh, without attachment. Bhutva, hokar, by being. Yudhyasva, yudhkar, engage in battle. So engage in your everyday activities. Vigat jwaraha, vigat, without, jwaraha, fever, without fever. So without fever, vigat jwaraha, very important. This is, where is the fever coming from? Rajogun. Without the fever, because you have that fever, the anxiety when you get attached to your end goals. Let's read.
Become free from expectation and egoism and all feverish mental agitation, and engage in dutiful battle of life, dedicating all actions to me with your mind centered on the self.
So this explanation of the italics itself is so powerful. It breaks down the entire essence of our life experience, if you read it word by word. So the analogy I'll give here, and this is the way the analogy here is, imagine this entire sansar in the world is a video game. All right, it's a game. I'm playing that game. What is the purpose of that game? To win the game so that I don't have to stay in any longer. That's the purpose of any game. That's the purpose of this game as well. In this game, what are we fighting? We are fighting we're fighting our own mental agitation. The anxiety that Tuna referred to, the depression, the anger, the all of those things. And where do they stem from? They stem from expectations and ego, always. Every time you're feeling anxious, every time you're feeling anger, every time you're feeling sad, you're suffering, you're hurting, the source will always be an expectation that you have from a situation, or it's your ego. I'm right, they're wrong. I'm better than them. How could they say this to me? Right? It always stems from these two things. And in this game, if you want to exit this game, the only way to do it is by dedicating all actions to the game maker. Dedicate all actions to the game maker, and slowly you will get detached from the game and you win the game and you go to everlasting bliss, so to speak. Right? So now we'll read the characteristics in a little more detail.
Just one question. What is
No, one, sorry, just can you repeat? So every time you go through that emotion, so I would just want to
Go through that emotion, the source of that will always be an expectation, a silent expectation you have from someone, from yourself, or from a situation, or it stems from ego, which is I'm right and they're wrong. That right and wrong is a very strong aspect that drives our unhappiness.
And how do you said you surrender it to?
So there are two aspects to it. One is surrendering all the actions that you do to Bhagwanji. So the result is moot. It doesn't matter because it's a game. And the second is but earlier, which is Antakaran ki Shuddhi, which is cleaning your subtle body, because all your ego and expectations sit there. They don't sit in the world. Your expectations are no more real than you want them to be. So if you get attached to that expectation, then of course you think it's real, and if you think that's real, then you're suffering. But no expectation is real. It's part of your subtle body, and that's what we need to work on. There is this beautiful line in the movie Gandhi, and I mean, for those who've been from the beginning, you know that I'm a huge fan. But during the Hindu-Muslim divide and the partition and everything, he gets interviewed by a journalist, and he basically says, I am going to prove to Hindus here and Muslims there that the only devils in the world are those running around our hearts. And that is where all battles ought to be fought. And that statement is basically a way of saying that everything that we experience, if we are unhappy, the problem is not the situation, problem is not the person, it is our own subtle body. It is that combination of mind, intellect, mind, and ego that is perceiving things and suffering for us. You can change that perception. When you change that perception, you can experience bliss. Yeah?
Yeah, thank you so much.
Another thing I'll point out in terms of our Rajoguni activities, right? This is something that we had covered a little bit in the past. There are 4 Purusharth that we say that are prescribed in our scriptures for every human life: Dharma, Arth, Kam, and Moksha. And these 4 things we are supposed to strive for. This is our duty to take over these 4 things. Now,
What is Purusharth again?
Purusharth is your free will, which you put to action, right? So there are 4 things that have been told: Dharma, Arth, Kam, and Moksha. Now, there's a reason it comes together in this form: Dharma, Arth, Kam, Moksha. So they're always taken together. Dharma and Arth come together. Kam and Moksha come together. Okay. So Dharma and Arth, as in Arth, Dharma is your Dharma. You're doing your duty, right, in the correct prescribed format. Dharma, Arth is acquisition of resources, of this worldly pleasures. Okay. Kam is desires, of all kinds of desires. So fulfillment of desires. and moksha is nirvana, right? Realization, self-realization. Now, what we do, what do Rajoguni people do? They are focused on earth and kam constantly. And that is what leads them to this jwar, the fever, right? Now, what Gita is saying is that actually that is the wrong thing to do. Earth and calm, the fulfillment of desires, money, resources that you need in this world, they have already been provided for in your destiny. Already provided for in your destiny. Nothing you will do today will get you these things any more than what the destiny has already prescribed for you. So you should be focusing all your efforts instead on dharma and moksha. Instead, what do we do? Dharma and moksha will happen later on. First, let me focus on earth and kam. Because we think that unless unless I have that end goal in mind, it will not be provided for myself, for my children, all those things. Now, to understand this a little bit better on how this really works, because it's kind of like, feels counterintuitive and like, no, why do I work otherwise? How will I get the money, right? Again. So just to explain this, whatever we have done in our past lives, in our past actions, has caused, when our destiny was created before we were born, that dharma and earth was deposited in this life. Earth and kam was deposited. It's like, when you're going to take out money from a bank, right? When you go to an ATM, how much money can you take out of it? You only take out what is already there in that bank account, right? You cannot take out anything more than that. The activity that you're doing right now to get access to that money, that activity of going to the ATM, putting that thing in, doing all the right actions you have to do to get access to that money, that is equivalent of all the activities we do in this world today. Everything, the whole studying, getting a job, doing the right actions, all of that is akin to only doing the prescribed actions to get access to the dhan, the earth that has already been given for in this world. Nothing in that process will increase your bank balance. Your bank balance has been done because of activities you have done already, and that has caused the money to be deposited in your bank account. Okay. And whatever you may do, you may take out more money, you may take out less money, but end of the day, all that money that has been accrued to you will come to you. Okay. So we have to free ourselves from that fever that, oh, if I don't do this or if I don't do that, oh, what will happen to myself? What will happen to my future? Your future has been taken care of. And unlike a bank account manager, if you go to a bank manager and you say, okay, I have $100 in my account, I want to take out all of it. That guy will say, yes, under the rules, you are allowed to take all your money out in one go. After that, what happens, tomorrow's food, where it will come from, I don't care. As per my bank rules, I'm allowed to allow you to take all the money out. Bhagwanji, as your bank manager, has higher fiduciary duty towards you. He will not let you take out all $100. Even if that is what your desire is, because he knows what your needs are for the rest of your life and what you will need to live that life properly in accordance with what you're supposed to do. He will give you, in this moment you may say, I want $20,000, and even if you have 100,000 in your account, if Bhagwanji knows, no, 1 year down the line you will need more of this, he will give you only that much that you need right now. Nothing you can do. Even you might think, people may think, oh, I swindled somebody else and I got his share. You cannot get anybody's share. The banking system is extremely strong. You cannot swindle anybody out of any money. Whatever you get when you are swindling someone to get their share, honestly, all you're doing is you're taking money out of your own account. Once you understand that, you will realize how foolish some of our activities are in the first place. You cannot swindle. I cannot do anything to get money that is due to Vijay by any activity I may do. He will get what he is supposed to get in his life. I will get only what I'm supposed to get in my life. So focus now on the bhav. Again, now we've learned the activities that we are doing will anyway get done because they are being done by the gunas of nature, right? So now what is our duty? Our duty is to focus on the bhav. the bhav with which we do our duty will determine our future, will determine the bank balance we create for the future. So our bank balance for the future is not being done by actions, not by the actions, because those actions are being done by gunas. It is determined by our bhav with which we do the action. Be very clear. Every bhav that comes in correctly is increasing your bank balance of future. Every bhav that is negative today in today's action is decreasing that bank balance for tomorrow. So focus on dhan, focus on bhav, focus on realizing the reality of this life. Everything else will get taken care of.
So bhav, to explain to some of the newer people, is essentially intent plus the emotion with which you do the particular action. So are you doing it aligned to the purpose of why that action exists, right? So in a very in a very functional example, cooking, are you cooking? You could be cooking as a mindless activity completely, or you could be cooking saying, nobody ever praises my cooking. The all thankless people in this house that I have to cook for, and blah, 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 blah. And the action is exactly the same. The result may or may not be the same. Or you're cooking, but you're silently also aware that I hope this food has the right nutrients for the family to be nourished to do their own duty and to follow their own path.
And more importantly, before you start doing that, be grateful that you have received the seva from Lord to cook. The cooking will get done irrespective. So having that bhav that I'm doing this as a seva for my own antakaran. Whatever we are doing is for ourselves only, end of the day. Very, very selfish. So Gita journey is extremely selfish. Everything we are doing is for ourselves, not for someone else. Yeah. And what is the end result, right? End result that when we are doing all of this with this yajna bhav that we keep talking about. One is, the first thing is, there is going to be Shatruo pe Vijay. You win over your enemies. Complete win over your enemies. And who are those enemies? What has been mentioned here? Kam, Krodh, ego. So we are getting a win over these internal Shatrus. And second is राज्य पे विजय, राज्य की प्राप्ति. और वो राज्य कहाँ है? Where is that kingdom? That kingdom is your kingdom of your man, your chit. You have complete control over where you want this really strong tool to be directed. So you can direct that man to where you want it to be and not be a slave to your man and your senses. So that's Rajya ki prapti, Shatruo pe vijay, and then Yash ki prapti. Everything is internal.
Just one question. This line which says that dedicating all actions to me with your mind centered on the self. Centered on the self, what does that mean?
So capital S self, in that chart, you can see refers to the individualized self on the top. So individualized self is basically a portion of Bhagwanji himself, right? So, and we know, the mind can never stop. It is a bulldog. It's always going to bark. It's always going to be loud in your head. So how do we quieten it? How do we redirect it? So they're saying the mind will always want to catch on to something and think about it. That's why we always need stimulation, because the mind loves that stimulation. Bhagwanji is saying, give the mind stimulation by directing the mind towards the capital S self, directing the mind to me. Let him be curious about me. Let him sing songs for me. Let him sing praises to me.
And again, singing praises or singing songs is not in the literal sense. I mean, you can do it literally too. But end of the day, this is the kirtan, which is basically us doing our activities as Bhagwanji has prescribed us to do.
So we'll read a bit more about that on point number 3. Anita, please.
5-point formula of action. This guidance is not only for Arjuna, but for all people of the world. While engaging in action, the eye should be on the following 5 points. Number 1, compulsory characteristics of action. Everyone possessed of a body has to perform some action all the time. Therefore, action should be for performance of one's duty only. Number 2, dedication of action. Whatever is being done is for performance of duty prescribed by the Lord. It is being performed with the strength given by Him and for His pleasure alone. This clear determination constitutes dedication of action. Number 3.
So the first 2 points focus on duty and action. So the last line of the first point, therefore, action should be for performance of one's duty alone. Every act we engage in, we're engaging as because it is our duty. And for us to be aware of our duty, we have to ask, what is the purpose of this action? So you could be watching a movie, but you're watching a movie with the purpose to re-energize yourself so that you can come back to do certain work with more vigor. Or you're meeting somebody, there is always a purpose behind why you're doing it. And that's what you have to discover by identifying, am I really doing this out of duty, or am I just wasting my time, catching up and gossiping and talking bad about people behind their back, or whatever else it is. Like I'm not sure. And that's what we should keep a check on. And the second is we should be aware that we're very blessed to have this vital energy that keeps us alive right now. All of us know that it's perishable. It's for a short period of time. We have this body. Don't forget that this is Bhagwanji's grace that we are able to do this for so long in such a healthy manner in a country like Singapore. And being aware of that gives us a responsibility. That are we using this energy we have for other people's benefit, for Lok Sangraha, or are we doing it for selfish reasons? Yeah, so that's the first 2.
And connecting back to Shlok 8, right, where we had very clearly said, why do you want to do only duty? Because they had, in Shlok 8, they had described, that there are 3 types of actions that can be done. The first is, what is your duty? Second, it could be forbidden actions. And the third is vain actions. So we know that if you do forbidden actions, the result is going to be bad. So what's the point of doing that? Then if you do vain actions, the result is indeterminate. And the third one is, if you do duty, actions that are considered your essential duty, you will always gain positive value out of it. So your Vyavasatmaka Buddhi, your intellect will tell you that the best use of all your resources is to do duty. And hence, an action should be only for the performance of one's duty, because that's the best use of your resources, your time.
Please.
Number 3.
Yeah.
Number 3, centering the mind of self. The Lord is omnipotent, omnipresent, omniscient, and is the supreme benefactor and the benevolent well-wisher. Reminding oneself thus constantly and fixing the mind thus, while doing all actions, constitutes centering the mind of self. Number 4.
This is the point where the mind always needs something to do, to hold on to. By centering it to Bhagwanji and the capital S self, you're saving yourself from God knows what other mistakes and temptations that you could have fallen down to. Right? So when we do Nam Jap, which is an Anushtan that we do each year, and for the new people, Nam Jap is basically a chant that we do Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. And you say that 108 times for it to be 1 mala. So you do like 5 malas, 10 malas, 20 malas a day. And you will notice that when you start doing that practice, and a lot of you shared last year or early this year as well, is when that mind is doing and focusing on that job, it saves you so much mental anxiety because you stop worrying about things. You stop trying to control things. You stop trying to think about the past, whether I looked good, did not look good. No, because your mind has gone on to the capitalist self. And your activity is still happening, your duty is still happening, the world is still moving. It's just that your experience in the world has become that much purer. It's eradicated that worry and anxiety we live.
There's something that was shared on our other Gita group, which I thought was quite interesting and is, it's kind of relevant here. So I think Kumar had shared, किसी को बहुत खुशी है, किसी को बहुत शांति है कि भगवान सब देख रहा है. There are people who are extremely happy. They are comforted by the fact that God is everywhere and He's seeing everything, which means He's taking care of me. And there are others who are afraid कि भगवान सब देख रहा है, right? So we have to determine for ourselves which part of the spectrum we are on at every point of the time. And reminding yourself constantly that He's your benevolent well-wisher is such a powerful way to connect, which basically will transform everyday experience of yours to know that whatever is happening outside, whether it seems good for us, or it may seem like it is not good for us outside or from an outside perspective, end of the day, everything is good. Everything is happening for our own benefit. Every VVGP that's coming in is coming for our own uddhar. And VVGP is your Vyakti, Vastu, Paristhiti, circumstances, right? Everything, people around us, activities that happen around us, situations that come up, circumstances that turn up in our lives, objects that we experience in our lives, everything takes us forward. So if you think of it that way, see, now what happens is, for example, you may have done something in your life which the result of which is that at some point of time you have to experience a tire puncture. Okay. Now, if we are aligned with Bhagwanji, He will make sure that tire puncture has to get experienced. So it will get experienced, but He will make sure that you experience it when the shop for the tire puncture to get fixed is next to you. He will make sure that every activity that happens is, He provides you samarthya, He provides you resources to fix it also. And whether you recognize it or not, that's how He does it. Which means that everything that comes in your way, know for a fact that the resources you need to tackle that situation, the wherewithal that you need, and your ability to handle that situation has already been provided for. You just need to tap into those resources. You just need to open your eyes, become aware of everything that is at your disposal inside of you and around you to tackle that situation. He never gives us any situation that we are unable to handle, no challenge that we will not be able to manage. So He is our ultimate benevolent well-wisher in every circumstance.
Now, most of us, I would say, we don't really live with regrets. Most of us, because we come from a very blessed background, most of us don't live in regrets. So when we talk about our own lives, in most cases, we always say, yeah, it was for the best. Yeah, it was a tough situation. I learned something from it. It was good for me, right? That's how we look at our life from hindsight. But in the present tense, do we bring that hindsight? Do we treat every situation as a blessing or a lesson? Or do we move to complaining about small things? Or complaining about things? Why don't I have this? Why don't you do this? You're always like this. Right? And what this is basically saying, and that's the next point essentially, is free your expectations. Because in the long life that you have, everything is actually going to be for your welfare, even if you don't, even if you can't see it right now, right? You having expectations will only result in your unhappiness, nothing else. And I think we should read the next one.
Also dialing back, long life, we don't know whether there is long life or not. So please don't live like, okay, might as well enjoy today, I'll read Gita tomorrow because there's a long life here. We don't know whether there's long life or not. So treat every day as your last and make sure that you're doing Swadhyay today, right? The last word on your, when it's your last breath, that word, that thought that's there is where you will, that will determine your gati, your direction for your next life. So don't postpone. Okay. Let's go ahead.
Number 4, freedom from expectation and egoism. Whatever is done should conform to duty. It should not be merely to gain a worldly objective or for fulfillment of a selfish motive. This constitutes freedom from expectation and egoism.
Now, expectations seep in very quietly and subtly in almost every aspect of our lives. Our job is just to be aware and not give in to it, right? So I think the most subtle, not most subtle, but one example that keeps coming to my mind right now, I don't know why, is parenting, right? What is our job as a parent? It's to provide a good environment for our kids to grow with the right value system to face their own destiny. What is in their destiny? We don't know. We can't control. All we can do is give them the right environment so that they nurture themselves with the right value system, the right bhavs come out, and then they face the world the way it is. But parenting as a conversation when you have with your child, like, "Arey yaar, मैं तुम्हारे लिए इतना करती हूँ, तुम ये भी नहीं कर सकते. I do this, you can't even do this, you can't even do that," and that irritation comes out in a conversation. I'm guilty of it a lot, like, and that's my biggest
Even
learning
with the
from.
spouses, huh? Even with the spouses, we can add spouse to it.
We'll need a whole separate session if you do spouses, to be honest. But that expectation that comes in, you're not even consciously aware of it, but it is reflected in that tone of voice. It is reflected in that silent irritation inside of you. Ki, how ungrateful is he? इतना कुछ देते हैं और ये हम तो ऐसे बड़े हुए थे. We grew up like this and we swam in river of crocodiles to go to school and all that nonsense comes up, right? And then look at these kids, international schools and all that. And all of that is just creating mental trauma for myself. That should be my awareness. And whatever said and done, the environment of the house that I'm creating is getting weaker, is getting diluted, is getting added, like it's getting filled with anxiety and stress and anger, which everybody picks up and volleys around, to be honest. But we forget that our real duty is literally just to provide that environment. That's it.
And whenever we face something outside of us, it is a reflection of what is inside of us. So for example, if I reach a meeting and the person I'm supposed to meet has come late into the meeting, or worst case scenario, he has canceled the meeting in the last minute, right? Instead of being upset at him when we face this situation, the thing that we have to reflect on is how many times have I disrespected someone else's time or someone else's resources that I'm experiencing this, and not be upset that the other person has just become a medium of, khana parosa. Khana wahi khana hai jo humne khud pakaya hai, right? We only eat what we have cooked for ourselves. Other people just become a medium for serving that food to us, right? So if someone is or if someone is getting upset in front of me, I have to look back in myself. Where is that feeling of violence or anger that I have inside of me? Once I take every piece of that outside of me, once I cleanse myself, I will not experience it in my external world. If I start being very respectful of other people's time, others will naturally become respectful of my time and resources. Very, very important. And this is part of us doing our duty in these small, small things. when I'm constantly late. I'm constantly late to every engagement in my life. And Abhinav is very particular about being on time everywhere. So as you can imagine, it has created a lot of issues in our marital life. And
issues. That's a very strong word. There are no issues in marital life.
There are issues. There are issues. We have fought before some very important things where I'd be like, you cannot give me 15 more minutes to like calmly get ready, and it is not that important. But we've gone through all of that, right? Now I've come to realize that it is his prarabdh. He needs to figure out where he has wasted other people's time that he has ended up with me, right? So when he cleanses himself, I'll automatically start being on time everywhere.
So true. I mean, we're making a comical situation out of this, to be honest, but it's very easy in these everyday things to hold grudges because of expectation, complaining, and all that sourness will result in the home that you want to create, this life that you want to experience, and that's not worth it, And that's what this shloka is saying. Be aware of your expectations and just let them go. Haji, padhiye.
Number 5, freedom from mental agitation. Ordinarily, while engaged in an action, the mind constantly battles with the thoughts of success and failure, or with haunting doubts about gaining the objective. By the succession of such thoughts, the mind becomes burdened with worries and tensions. But when it acts with the strength and for the pleasure of the Lord, then all worries and tensions disappear. The mind is put at rest with the thought that whatever happens would be for one's welfare and by the Lord's will, because the Lord is omniscient and omnipresent. But above all, he is benevolent friend. Even failures prove to be for one's ultimate benefit.
Yeah. So I think we talked about this 5 minutes ago. There is a story here that it stayed in my head. So the person who started the Gita Parivar in Singapore, her name is Aparna Didi. She lives in Sovereign at Maya Road. So of course, her entire family is also in is enrolled. So she has a son who's I think 23, 24, 25, like early 20s. Okay. And just like every mother and son relationship, their relationship is exactly the same. And when I say every mother and son or mother and child, mother is nagging and son is like whatever, right? Ye karo, wo karo, aisa karo, vaisa karo, like all of that.
And I'm judging him right now.
So all that is happening. So there was a bhajan or there was a satsang for which we were preparing, and there was something with tech and flowers, and there were lots of dynamism, a lot of things happening. So Aparna Didi kept saying, "Arey, ye karo, arey, aisa karo, arey, vaisa karo," and you could see she was getting a bit agitated. I mean, she's human as well, so she was getting a bit agitated. And all of us were like, we were there, we're just like, 5 minutes to start. There's a lot that needs to happen, ye wo. And Siddharth, his name is, he just looked up and he said, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to my Antakaran cleaning machine. Right? So look at his perception. He's like, it doesn't matter what she's saying. She's helping me just clean my own Antakaran. Please continue. Right? And that perception change brings so much bliss in your life. As you can imagine how centered Siddharth must be. So yeah, so she's my Antakaran cleaning machine, also known as wife, essentially.
And that's why he's super grateful to me every day.
Yes, I am. I am. All right, I think we should end here.
Do you want to do the next one?
No. I think it'll be only 5 minutes. Although I did think we would have finished 4 today, but we moved slowly. Take a Quinn.
Sorry, I have a question. I'm trying to reconcile this. So if you say expectation and ego are not things we need to give up, then how do you like? I'm trying to reconcile. How do you like stay ambitious at the same time? What give up your expectation and ego? Because a lot of things, like it's a small thing which motivates you, not work. Like, oh, if you're this tier of performance, you get X bonus, etc. So it's almost, I guess, materialistic outcomes you tie your thing, but it also makes you ambitious in a way, right? Like without having the expectation of getting that bonus amount, how do I motivate myself to work?
I'll let Tuvina talk about this, the difference between goal and ambition, because she's experienced this a lot, but I'll share something about corporate world. I think it's a multi-billion, if not trillion-dollar industry on how to motivate employees. And in about 100 years ago, the corporate world is not that evolved, right? About 70, 80 years ago, they came up with this idea of a carrot and stick. It's like in 50s or 40s, and they said put a bonus and make them chase the pot, right? But we still have large amount of workforces that are fully unmotivated. Despite the bonus, they earn the bonus, they're very unhappy, they're complaining, they're all of that is happening. And the internet came up about 20 years ago, 25 years ago, and you have this whole community of people, millions of them who have a day job where they're chasing that pot of honey. They come back home and then they solve even more complex problems than their day job and contribute to open source tech on the internet. And there is an entire book, I think it's called Drive, which did that research. Is where is people's motivation really coming from? Because these guys who are doing day jobs are doing their jobs, but they're doing a much better work for free, without any recognition, without any name, for the betterment of the community. Where is their drive coming from? And that's the difference. So that difference now Tuvina will elaborate between goal and purpose, or how will you want to?
Okay. So I think the first thing is that the question you have asked is, we had touched upon it slightly in Shlok 24 and 25. So in Shlok 24, it was said that people with that Sakam Bhav, when they are working towards gaining these goals, they work extremely hard, right? Very, very, they're dedicated and they're doing everything to achieve those goals. Now, if you give that up, that connection to the end goal, then what are you doing? So you are still connected to something. You're still working towards something. You're not working in vacuum. You're working towards a greater goal. You've replaced the small goal of worldly objects with the larger goal of antahkaran ki shuddhi, of that ultimate realization. That is your goal. So your goal has changed from a small petty goal, which by the way has already been provided for you. Whether you get it or not get it, it is already there in your destiny. So that's not something for you to work towards at all. Now that small goal has been replaced with a huger, bigger goal of life. So the goal has become bigger, it has become more difficult, it has become more challenging, and it has become more personal. And very, very, very important. With that understanding, now work even harder than those people. Now, that doesn't mean that you will not place small milestones in your life or achievements or goals or targets, right? Now, this is something that we had covered in chapter 2 towards the end. We had described what is the difference between goals and targets. Okay. Where is it? So just give me a second. Yes. So we had talked about the difference between desires and goals. How do you know whether you're working towards a desire or towards a goal? So there's nothing wrong in setting goals, right? You can set. Now those goals can be materialistic in nature in certain cases. For example, building towards a big goal in your life, in your office. And one of the goals for that, one of the goal posts for that is hiring for 2 people of a certain caliber, or acquiring certain number of customers, or creating certain presentations, like whatever, right? Those are small goals towards a larger goal of, getting your company to acquire certain revenue target, for example. which will then in turn benefit you, right? Now, the difference is one, are you working solely towards your own benefit, or are you working towards the larger Lok Sangrah of the entire company, which by the way will result in your end, in you benefiting out of that too. That is one difference. Second is that you are doing every day those activities to do certain things, whether the end goal gets achieved or not, whether that material goal end of the day gets achieved or not, the fact that you have done all actions that are required of you towards that journey, you've taken that journey itself will become so beautiful that it doesn't matter whether you reach that end goal or not, because you will have found heaven. And that heaven will be in terms of your mental peace, the mental calmness, the happiness that you will experience, irrespective of what is going on outside of you. You may get that or you may not get that. And how do you determine when you are doing these things? Because sometimes those things, the goals or the goalposts will look exactly the same. You can work towards getting your next car. You can work towards you need to buy a house or whatever, certain bank balance, whatever it may be. How do you know that this is a desire or is this a goal? The difference is, you can ask yourself, and you will know this inside of you. A goal will typically give you an energy. It will give you clarity, and it will give you a purpose. It will strengthen you to do more and more. Whereas desires will dissipate your energy. You're doing something and it will be exhausting and not energizing. That activity will energize or dissipate your energy. So you may be exhausted, physically you may get exhausted by kriya, by actions, but mentally, are you energized? Are you happy? Are you inspired? Or are you dissipated, angry, upset, anxious? That determines whether this is a goal, whether the goal that you should be working towards, or whether it's a desire based something that you're working on. As the external environment changes, it will change whether you will reach that end goal or not, whether you will achieve that desire or not. And that is what is going to cause a lot of friction in your daily life. Tiredness, anxiety, anger, irritation. Whereas when you are on the path of the right goal, aligned goal, this will it will not matter. It will not matter what's happening outside of you, because you're driven by a certain zeal that comes from inside of you. You will continue to do that. Everything that comes up as an obstacle, you will view it as another opportunity to do something that others probably cannot, and you must be there to help something. You must be there to do something about it. It doesn't dissipate your energy. Okay. Then it starts. So desires will create attachment, whereas goals will liberate you. Desires will typically be very short term in nature, and they will change rather quickly. Today I want this, tomorrow I want that. Now my goal has changed from $100,000 to $500,000 because suddenly whatever, right? And whereas your goals will be much more long term, and they won't change that quickly, because they come from a deeper purpose of why you're doing something. If your goals are not rooted in a deep purpose, they will change in a very fickle minded manner. Okay. Then our goals will make us calm. They will make us equipoised. Whereas the other one will be the way of the world, which will take away our calmness. In the space of desires, you will start your life as a beggar. You start from a space of abhav. You start from a space of I don't have, and so I must acquire this in my life. You're starting from a space where there's nothingness, and you want to get something in your life that will give you happiness. So you're starting from a space of abhav. You're starting from a space of unhappiness, and acquiring something will give you that happiness. In the other case, you're starting from a space of fulfillment, of happiness, of giving. You're in a space of a king. You are being a king, and you are giving, not taking. So when you are working in the company, are you starting from a space of abhav, that I do not have enough money and I must acquire a certain amount of bonus to make myself happy, without which I will not be happy? Or are you starting from a space of being a king in that space, that I have so much to give to this company, I have so much that I can create value out of for my customers, for my colleagues, for my company. Every interaction I have through my work, I'm creating some value for somebody. So I'm in a space of giving, and then the value gets created accordingly. You will partake of a certain value that you create anyway.
Okay,
Right?
thank you. This is good.
I mean,
On
it's
a lighter note, you can use it as Antakaran cleaning machine too also.
Yeah.
Or you can join my company. They also teach Gita in a nicer way, telling them do all the job, don't expect anything else.
all right, guys, let's do the
I
closing
think one
shlokas.
last thing between the two, right? When desires get fulfilled, they will lead to greed. When desires are left unfulfilled, they will cause anger. Whereas in case of goals, whether they are fulfilled or they are unfulfilled, they will leave you with a sense of satisfaction, equipoise, happiness, and calmness. It wouldn't matter because you've given your best.
Differentiates between those, like Virat Kohli, Sachin Tendulkar and all, who does their work with the whole passion and they enjoy the whole act itself rather than chasing a goal.
Sure. All right. Let's do closing shlokas. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. All right. Om Sarvesham Swastir Bhavatu Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukha Bhag Bhavet Om Asatoma Satgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Om Shanti 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 Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you all, everyone. Just a quick point, all the new people who've joined who've not sent me their birthdays, because I've not requested for it, but the new people, if you could please send me your birthdays, Rituj, Anmol, Bhageshri, Nena, I remember at least you all, Venkatesh, that would be great, because we do a special celebration in a Gita way for your birthday. And I would not want to miss that opportunity to bless you guys.